Something that I've always hoped to convey to my art education students when I started teaching in higher ed, and that is that art education has a lineage. And so find your lineage, and it goes beyond, or goes further back, I guess, than your methods teacher or your high school or middle school art teacher. Art education has a history, and I think that's important to know. Read your history. And build your own foundation from the history of art ed, but also from other thinkers and philosophers and teachers. It's a rich tapestry to look at.
I think it's important to think about one's philosophy on art education and becoming an art teacher, and to continue to reflect on that while teaching in the classroom. I teach on a high school level, and I think art education is important for multiple reasons, but at this level I think it's a big deal for students to be well-rounded in their education, to have experiences. One thing we really focus on is a lot of life skills through the arts. I teach at a STEM school, so a lot of my students are very left-brained. But a lot of things they get out of my classroom is life skills of constructive criticism, conceptual thinking, problem solving, the design process. And these are skills that are not only used in creative careers, but it can be related to almost any career they have. On a high school level, you deal with that adolescent time of self-discovery, of students finding themselves, finding their voice. And the art classroom gives them a safe haven that allows them to, work through these things and really become who they are. So I think as I grow as a high school art teacher, my philosophy changes. Being an art teacher, it gets interesting because the one thing I love about my job is I'm educating the youth on art, I'm giving them experience of art, I'm researching art, I'm making art. So my life has really revolved around art 24 hours a day, and this is not my first career choice. So the journey to becoming an art teacher, I think is a really cool journey for me. I literally wake up every morning wanting to go to.
Hey guys, Sarah Duvernay here, and I'm here to talk to you about why art education is so gosh darn important. Really, art education isn't really about painting, it's not about drawing, it's not about any particular medium or anything that you can kind of place. It's more about this hidden curriculum that people don't really know that's there. It's more about being observational. It's about being able to look at small little tiny details but also get the entire picture at the same time. It's about being able to take criticism. It's about trying to create little problem solvers. If you ever have a kid come up to you and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm bored, I don't like it, da 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 da, whatever. Um, Generally, it's because they don't feel like being creative, because being creative takes work and it takes practice. And with an art class, you get to practice being creative on a daily basis, which in a lot of other classes you don't always get. Sometimes it's just study notes, sometimes it's just do this worksheet. But with an art class, you're always creating, you're always evaluating, you're using those higher Bloom's taxonomy levels, which is wonderful.
Being there and facilitating the process for a student, regardless of what age they are. And the majority of my experience has been in K through 8. But to be there with them when they make that discovery, or as they struggle with a theory or concept or media, it's a privilege, because art is so deeply personal and intimate. There's a beautiful article called In Praise of Practice by Stuart Richmond, and he believes, and I agree, that young children make marks on paper to remind themselves that they exist. And I think that's a beautiful and profound way of framing the importance of art. It helps remind us that we do exist, that we are here, that we have been here. It is a way of sending ourselves into the future, because the image or work of art will last beyond us in many cases. And that's not necessarily limited to those artists in museums. I have artwork that was made by my mom. I have recording of music that was played by my grandfather. And that is an artifact of them that I am very delighted to have. It is getting to know a side of them that as a child or grandchild I would not have necessarily known. And that is the joy of working in art education, is getting to be there with people, helping, but really just sort of facilitating that process. I think if we lose that, we lose an enormous part of how human beings think about the world and find our place and connection in the world. But if we as educators are to address the whole child, that means the affective domain, the creative child as well, that we help them discover the parts of themselves that they didn't know existed, that we create opportunities for them to learn about the world and themselves in different ways. And a very critical part of this is art education.